Anneliese Michel died on the 1st of July 1976 at the age of 23. Her frail body had endured the physical trauma of 67 exorcism rituals over a period of just 10 months. She was finally free from the demons that had seemingly possessed her. A possession that was so horrific that her story was used in the making of the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Let's take a look at her terrifying story. Anneliese was born in Bavaria, West Germany in 1952. She came from a very devout Catholic family, and they regularly visited church together. At the age of 16, Anneliese experienced her first seizure at school. She lost consciousness, and that night she awoke to an overwhelming feeling of fear and dread. Unable to move, she later came to believe that that was the moment that the demons entered her body and her horrific possession began. A year later, after suffering a similar episode, her mother took her to their GP, who referred her to a neurologist, Dr. Luthi. A brain scan showed no cause for concern, but over the next 3 years, after many more episodes, she was diagnosed with psychosis caused by epilepsy, treated at a psychiatric hospital, and given the appropriate medication. But at the time of her death, 5 years of psychiatric medication had failed to improve her symptoms. By 1973, Anneliese became depressed and withdrawn. She started to spend more and more time alone in her room. She began to hear knocking sounds emanating from inside her closet and on her walls and ceiling. Her mother started noticing that she would stare resentfully at a statue of Virgin Mary, and on doing so, her eyes would turn jet black. Once again, she returned to Dr. Luthi, and there she told him that she was having hallucinations. She said that she could see the devil's face everywhere she looked, and hear demon voices whispering in her ears, telling her that she would rot in hell, and that she was damned. She confessed that she felt as though the devil was inside her. She also complained of being able to smell burning fecal matter. According to Anneliese's mother, Dr. Luthi advised them to see a priest, because he believed that Anneliese was suffering from a demonic possession, an allegation that Dr. Luthi later denied. She was diagnosed as neurotic by a psychiatrist, and her epilepsy was confirmed by another neurologist, and once again her medication was changed. But her behaviour deteriorated, and by the summer of 1975, she was suffering from extreme insomnia. She refused to visit church anymore, insisting that even trying to enter through the doors was just too physically painful. Anneliese began to eat any spiders and flies that she could find around the house, and would urinate on the floor before kneeling to lick it up. She would rip her clothes from her body and lash out at her parents and her sisters in fits of rage, biting, kicking and punching. She ran through the house growling and uttering the most horrific screams, and at one point she crawled under a table and barked like a dog for 2 days. She also displayed superhuman strength when she picked up one of her sisters and threw her against the wall like a ragdoll, and was able to squeeze an apple with one hand until it exploded into pieces. Anneliese continued to hallucinate, seeing the faces of demons superimposed over the faces of family members. She smashed pictures of Jesus and the Virgin Mary and destroyed crucifixes and rosary beads. In between these intense outbursts, Anneliese would become severely suicidal. She also began to eat less and less. Her family became convinced that she was suffering from a demonic possession, and they sought the help of Father Alt to arrange an exorcism. Permission was sought, and Father Alt was able to convince the bishop that an exorcism was needed, because Anneliese was possessed. Arrangements were made to perform a full-blown exorcism ritual. On September the 24th, 1975, Father Renz performed the first exorcism rite. Over a period of 67 sessions, 42 of these sessions were recorded, and these audio tapes are intensely disturbing to hear. I will play them for you now, but I warn you, they are not for the faint-hearted. Take a listen. During these sessions, Anneliese revealed that she was possessed by 6 demons. These demons would speak through her in growls. She would scream, and her body would contort when she was sprinkled with holy water. By May 1976, the sessions had become even more horrific. Anneliese was now refusing to eat anything. She had started to self-harm and had to be restrained because she bit holes in the walls and smashed her head through a window. Silence finally fell over the house on the morning of the 1st of July 1976, and Anneliese was finally at peace. She died from dehydration, starvation, and sheer exhaustion from the torture that her body had been put through. At the time of her death, her body was in a horrific state. Her knees were smashed and broken because of the violent way with which she had thrown herself into a kneeling position for the hundreds of genuflections that she performed over and over. She weighed just 68 pounds, the average weight of a 10-year-old child. She had open sores all over her body, 2 black eyes, and her mouth and nose were raw because of the constant self-harm. A criminal investigation into her death began, and her parents, Father Alt and Father Renz, were charged with negligent homicide. The trial lasted for over a year, and the prosecution insisted that Anneliese was suffering from a mental illness, and that medical intervention should have been sought to avoid the resulting starvation of Anneliese. However, the defense insisted that Anneliese had the right to refuse medical treatment, and that they had eyewitness testimony and recordings that would prove that Anneliese was suffering from demonic possession. The judge found the defendants guilty and sentenced all 4 of them to 6 months in prison, which was later suspended. 2 years after her death, Anneliese's parents had her body exhumed from Kilgenberg Cemetery so that she could be buried in a new oak coffin. Allegedly, this was an excuse for her parents to prove the possession because a possessed body would not deteriorate properly. Her parents were not allowed to view her body, and photos taken by police were never released. Anneliese's grave can now be seen from the bedroom of her family home where she died, and this, and the chapel that her parents had built in her honour, has become a place of pilgrimage for devout Catholics. The family home has been standing empty since the death of Anneliese's parents, and some locals have claimed that they have seen shadowy apparitions flittering around there. On the 6th of June 2013, a huge fire started at the property and destroyed both the sawmill and the house. Locals have speculated that the date of the fire may have had some importance. The 6th day of the 6th month and the digits of 2013 also adding up to the number 6. Total all those together and you get the number of the devil, 666.